to the final Monday night workshop of Omega in this phase. I wanted to take a moment. I'm going to have to talk a little louder because there's no microphone. Our system just hasn't been working, and my voice is a little sore today. So I'm just going to let you know I'm going to be drinking Starbucks and water while I'm talking, just in case anyone gets offended. You're allowed to drink now in the room. So what are we going to do, kick you out? I want to introduce to you tonight the topic of conscious harmony. Last night was the last Omega 1 that we had here. Anybody here from the previous Omega 1 that we just graduated? Excellent. Let's give them a hand. Anybody here for the first time? There we go. Let's give them a hand. And now I can really say this. Anybody here for the last time? Everyone's hand should be up on that one. Thank you very much. That's kind of funny.
It's the last night in here. Go ahead and sit where you want.
Yeah, sit.
Yeah,
Judy's like, boom. All right.
Yes, I know.
If you're going to be a distraction, you need to get up here and start talking. No, I'm kidding. So, this evening, I wanted to end talking about conscious harmony. This is one of the topics of George's material that I found. I was looking through his filing cabinet and came across a folder that said conscious harmony. It had like 50 pages in it. So I flipped through and just really chose the things that I wanted to add. And plus I added my own little information on this one. I thought it would be a nice way to end thinking about conscious harmony. The distinction between harmony and consciousness, what it's like to be conscious as well as being harmonious in our lives as well as in the universe. So harmony is the ultimate goal of the universe. According to George, that's one of the things he wanted to say was harmony is the ultimate goal of the universe. The popular word for harmony is balance, and the Ageless Wisdom teachings talk about beauty. And if you think about it, they are very interchangeable. Harmony, beauty, and balance. Symmetry falls in there as well. Everything, if you think about it, oh, I didn't get the picture of the sine wave, but the sine wave, that's very symmetrical. Everything else that we have is quite symmetrical. So, good literature, George mentions that good literature has patterns of symmetry, often unknown to the writer. Since we happen to have a writer, I'm assuming your patterns have symmetry in them. Excellent. Great music ends on the same note that it begins. I did not know this, but I actually did a little research and I found songs that they did. They ended on the same note that they started. Songs that I happen to like, I thought, wow, that's very nice. Universal laws of correspondence and polarity are perfect examples of balance. As above, so below. That's the correspondence one. So below, as above. So everything is equal and balanced on that. I mentioned the sine wave, of course, plus and minus, positive and negative. The balance of polarity, the law of polarity balances every force with an opposite and equal force. Science even tells us that. For every force, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So science has proven this. So balance seems to be a part of everything that we have in life. Symmetry is everything that we have in life here. George even went on to say a little bit more about for every particle of matter, there is a particle of antimatter. So that is in balance. The goal of harmony, I jumped ahead. I didn't have to say that. You didn't know I jumped ahead. This all goes together. The balance of harmony, or the goal of harmony, is peace and rest. Now, I found that curious because if you think about a sine wave, which I didn't put up here, but the sine wave is the S, and the middle is often called the node. That's the resting point. That's the zero. And George used to talk about how if we ever reached the node, we'd be flatlining it. So we'd be dead. But again, if you think about the balance of it, death really isn't the end. It's just the end of here. Then we move on to the next phase, wherever that is. I was thinking about balance in my life, pertaining to me personally and balance. And we can think about, I guess what I could think about is the amount of abuse that I endured led me to a very spiritual path. So I would say that was very balanced on that, if I look at the big picture of balance. I think about people, Abraham Lincoln, who had a great strive and struggle, and he became the President of the United States. So it seems like balance is out there as well. Karma comes into play. I think about karma and how karma seems to balance everything out, if you believe in karma. If you don't, if you're from the Catholic religion, and you can think about when you have a sin, you have to go to confession and confess your sins to balance it out. So even in that aspect, there is a little bit of balance. George said that as wonderful as harmony is, there's something even greater, conscious harmony. Harmony is a thing of beauty. Nothing can equal the splendor of conscious harmony. So what I decided to do was look at the two different words. So we talk about this is George, sorry. Harmony is a thing of beauty, but nothing can equal the splendor of conscious harmony. Of course, beloved George Adair. So the definition of conscious, did I spell this right? I hope so. Definition of consciousness. It says, awake and able to understand what is happening around you. So that means I'm aware. Now, of course, in Omega 1, we always use the illustration of when you're driving. Has anybody had this experience? You're driving your vehicle and you arrive at a location but you don't know how you got there? Anybody have that experience? You all better put your hands up, because I know each and every one of you raised your hands before. So we get there, we don't know how we got there. That's operating, and we usually use that as unconscious, the idea of being unconscious. So this one says, awake and available to understand what is happening around you. The next part of this definition is aware of something such as a fact or a feeling, knowing that something exists, or is happening. And then, of course, known or felt by yourself. And I like this last part, because by yourself, I'm really the only one who can identify whether or not I'm conscious. The doctor, come on in, Ellen. The doctor may be able to, do my reflexes, but I'm the only one who can be aware if I'm conscious or not. Therefore, you can be the only one who's aware of being conscious as well. So this is why when we start to determine whether or not we're conscious, we could say collective consciousness. Well, how do we know that everybody in this room is conscious at this moment? But I could say collectively speaking, we could say there's a collection of consciousness. Now here's the other thing. I could be semi-conscious. Has anybody ever had that experience? A little bit too much alcohol? Sorry, did I say that? But we can be semi-conscious. You can be semi-conscious too much sugar. Have you ever had those sugar highs where that's semi-conscious as well, which I will soon be feeling when I go home tonight. So consciousness and there appears to be levels of consciousness. And then I started thinking, well, are there levels of beauty? Can there be certain levels of beauty? Well, if it's determined by myself, I would say yes, there has to be different levels of beauty, because what I find beautiful, you may not find beautiful. And what you find beautiful, I may not find beautiful. So that means there might be levels of beauty as well. I would have to agree with that. But then when I look at the word symmetry, which is what I've tied in, can symmetry be felt by everyone? I think yes. I think everyone can understand the idea of symmetry. Everyone understands the idea of a seesaw, right? Have you ever, I talk like a New Yorker there. Have you ever had the experience of sitting on a seesaw and riding it up and down? And then somebody who sits on the other side is more than you, and then you're stuck in the air for a while, and they think it's really funny. And eventually what you want to do is be able to balance out. You have the same amount of weight on both sides to balance it out. And then if you're skilled enough, two of you may be able to sit on it and make it balance completely like that. So I think we all understand the experience of balance and symmetry. Now I want to go to the definition of harmony, since I'm talking about conscious harmony. This one, it's the combination of different musical notes played or sung at the same time produce a pleasing sound. Now obviously, harmony is related to music. We say the tune is in harmony. The song is harmonious. It made me think about when I was thinking of harmony. Remember, what is the New Age people, they call it the harmonic conversion? Is that right? That's when everything's supposed to line up and there's harmony in the universe, which I've never felt, but apparently it's there. Isn't that what happened for the Mayan calendar 2012? All the planets were supposed to be in alignment, the end of the world was supposed to happen. Because which I never really understood, why would the world end if everything was in harmony? It should be out of harmony that would cause the world to be destructive. But anyway, so this connects us to the musical notes. And then, of course, the next one, a pleasing combination or arrangement of different things. So since Peter just gave me a prop, I will use this. We can look at this and say, is this harmony? Well, if I look at it, is it pleasing? Roses are not my favorite, and orange is definitely not my favorite color. I was using that as an illustration. So somebody might think this is beautiful, and another person may not think this is beautiful. I do think things are beautiful. I was kidding on that. So we can look at this as harmony. Now, we wouldn't look at the flowers and say that's harmony. We call it beauty. But it has good symmetry, like roses themselves actually have symmetry. This actually was a good prop. Thank you, sir. I'm going to share my chocolate with everyone. If we continue with the two words, I think if I were to combine the two words and using bits and pieces of both of the definitions, I would come up with the idea of being aware of a pleasing combination. I think that makes good sense, being aware of a pleasing combination. I could also take it one step further and saying being aware or creating beauty. That would be the same thing as conscious harmony, of creating a pleasing combination or creating beauty. So therefore, conscious harmony is more than just skin deep. It portrays the highest order of being possible. The goal is all about economy. Now here I want to throw a term in there, economy. Now that doesn't seem like a word that you want to use with harmony and balance. It's very ethereal, and then economy is like back down to earth. Most of us, when we think about the word economy, we think about money and our monetary system. And economy, if you actually think about this, it's about checks and balances. So it all comes out, it ends up being about balance again. You balance your checkbook, you balance your bank statements. Do they still have checkbooks? I'm sorry. I'm like, I was looking at my computer screen when I said that, and I thought, wait, you could have a checkbook. So we balance out our accounts. That's economy. That would be considered economy. Now, if I think about economy, how many different levels of economy could there be? Well, there'd be physical, naturally. Mentally, I could balance out the economy. I spend energy on my mind. Emotional economy. Have you ever met anybody out of balance emotionally? I'm sure you've met lots of people out of balance mentally. But you may experience that, somebody who's out of balance mentally, so their economy is off. If we think about balancing ourselves as a human being, we look at the electromagnetic spectrum. We introduced this in Omega-1. The electromagnetic spectrum, one of the 4 universal laws, everything vibrates. All of that is symmetry. Every single one of those arenas right there is symmetry because it's all based upon the sine waves, all based upon vibrations. So if we look at economy, we can say the same thing is true. It's nothing but a series of vibrations, and if my energy is out of balance, then I'm not vibrating correctly. When we look at the red, orange, blue, purple, and violet, those are the 7 levels of me as a human being. So all 7 levels also have economy, we can say. I want to throw the word energy in there. If I change monetary to energy, I'm expending energy. We can make that connection quite simply. So physically, I expend energy. Emotionally, I'm expending energy. Mentally, I expend energy. Spiritually, I can just group that all together. Spiritual, I expend energy spiritually. So if I wanted to be a balanced human being, one of the things that we introduce you to is the color meditation, where you bring all 7 levels of you in one, and you're balanced, hopefully to bring in harmony. That's one of the goals that we would set forth. So when it comes to economy, the measure of, George said this, the divine rule for behavior has nothing to do with morality, goodness, or happiness. The measure of good behavior is economy. It takes balanced structure to support itself, whether it's philosophy or a building. Think about that. The buildings that were built pre-60s or the 1800s, they're not very earthquake stable, are they? Nowadays, when they build a building, it's very balanced where they know that it has a little give and take and it sways. My father builds bridges, or used to build bridges. He's a bridge inspector. When they build bridges, if you've ever been over bridges, you ever notice there's like spans where there's little holes in the and I remember the first time I drove over and there's like the crack and the bridge is falling apart. Because you don't know that you're on the pavement and all you do is see a hole that looks, well, we don't realize that there's supports underneath, but those spans are meant so that there can be give and take and sway for expansion and contraction so the bridge doesn't collapse. Now that unfortunately happens only after they discover bridges were collapsing because there was no expansion and contraction. So, the idea is about balance. He even said, as I said in philosophy, we have to have a balance of philosophy in our lives as well. An out-of-balance structure uses excess energy for support. So if you've ever seen a cactus that is starting to lean over, what do they end up doing? They put a cactus grows another arm, but that probably wasn't the best idea. How about when you see a tree start to fall, what do the people who own the trees do? They put a tree stick, a wrap around it, a ring, and then a stake in the ground with a cable to hold it up there. They do this sometimes with the telephone poles too. When they start to lean out of balance, they'll wrap a cable around it and hold it back. So it's got external balance or external energy. So that means there's more required to sustain stability of something that's out of balance. Say that one more time. There's more required to maintain stability of something that's out of balance. Okay? So I'm trying to lay down a good foundation for balance and what it looks like to be out of balance. George says that symmetry is better for the universe since its purpose uses less energy. When something is in the flow, it's less energy. But when something's out of flow, it requires more energy. I was trying to look this up where it said, have you ever heard the aphorism that it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile? Has anybody done that? So I went online to see how many muscles it exactly takes, because I wanted to give you some nice hard facts. Nobody can determine that. I actually finally went to snoops.com to see, what's the real thing. And they gave line after line of centuries people have been saying this, but nobody can prove it. Because they're like, well, do you include the muscles of the eyes when somebody smiles, or don't you? And some people's ears can wiggle, so do we add those? And it just went on and on. So one of the ones that I saw, that most of them had like a 20 muscle difference, where it'd say 50 muscles and then 25 muscles for smiling. But the whole idea would be to smile because it requires less energy. But I liked some of the research that I discovered where it talked about, it wasn't so much the smiling and the frowning as it was to the demeanor. When a person is frowning and upset, they're out of balance. But when you're happy and in a position of joy, you're in balance, so less energy is expended. You feel more peaceful. You feel more in tune and sync with life. As opposed to when there's an upset, then it feels more arduous. You feel burdened, heavier. It takes more to get out of bed in the morning. So those of you who've ever experienced depression, it's the same thing. It's hard if you feel like you're expending so much energy just to get out of bed. But if you're joyful, you jump out of bed and know, hey, this is a great day. So that's a good picture of how out of balance we can be just on the emotional and physical levels. Here's a really, this is good. Silence is better than gossip. That's the line I came across. Silence is better than gossip. But George says not for moral reasons. It's because it takes less energy to be silent than to gossip. And I know as soon as I say that, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to argue, it's harder to be quiet than it is to talk. Because we love to go, and then we have to like hold our mouth. Wait, don't say anything. Wait, don't say anything. Most of us like to talk more, but silence is better because it expends less energy. If you think about it, it's true. There's less you're speaking about. So the next question would be, how do I shut this off then? It would probably be beneficial if my mind wasn't going 24/7 all the time as well, to bring about balance in my brain. So I'm wanting to lay a good picture, a good foundation of what it's like to be balanced and out of balance. So now what I'd like to do is make sure everyone has someone to chit-chat with. I want you to have a conversation with your buddy and determine whether or not you're in balance or out of balance, and on what level you feel like you're in and out of balance. Go ahead. May I have your attention, please? I'm going to have you keep talking to your buddy, but there is something I'd like you to discuss on this specific topic. When it comes to balance, that includes forgiveness. If you do not forgive, you are out of balance. So I want you to have a conversation with your buddy about an injury, perhaps that has taken in your life, that you still have not forgiven, or took you some time to forgive. And then what it costs you, or what it is costing you right now. Peace of mind, stability, anything at all that you can think of. But I want you to focus on the idea of forgiveness, how lack of forgiveness takes you out of balance.
My friend.
May I have your attention,
No real
please?
feelings any longer. She hasn't forgotten it.
I still don't want to leave the subject, so now I want you to keep talking to your buddy, but I'd like you to talk about when you created harm and injury and how it threw other people out of balance, whether relationships were out of balance or a job perhaps was out of balance. So I want you to keep the conversation about forgiveness or injury, and when were you the one who initiated the pain and how it threw everything else out of balance. Go ahead, please. May I have your attention, please?
I'm not following
So first I'd like to ask you, who would like to share and tell me what area of your life you feel like you're out of balance? Yes.
It's funny you should speak about this, because I was actually at Human Resources today at work expressing, even though, that's why I stay in the back office on the phones at the resort I work in, even though I could be a social butterfly, I'm very much an introvert. So what happens is I assess the situations around me and I go into mode of survival mode, and then all of a sudden, which is unfair too, is that one person gets all the stuff that I took calculation of and kept inside, and so then I get angry at myself because now I've become a part of the problem. And of course we said we had to have a meeting, and everything around me is going. Either somebody has passed, things are closing, everything. And I'm feeling a calling at the church that I've been going to. I'm actually getting baptized, and I'm thinking, I'm in that state of, when we did that exercise where you fall back and that person picks you up. I'm actually trying to make peace with that. And so that's where I'm at with that, is that just because I've held everything in and didn't participate 360 days out of the year, those 5 days that I let everything out in a really passive-aggressive way doesn't balance it, to say the least.
So Mary, would you say that the 360 days that you withheld exploded in 5 days?
I would say that.
Yeah. Now, had it been in balance, maybe there wouldn't have been such a tremendous explosion.
Yes.
Excellent. That's a good picture of that. Thank you. Somebody else? Out of balance. Yes, Cindy.
For me, I've done a lot of work on it recently, but for a long time I was really disconnected and out of a spiritual state, not connected in love, not connected to awareness, just totally disconnected. And coming from that state and trying to reconnect, and I'm not there yet. I'm working hard on it. But I realize, it's kind of like I was just explaining to Judy, I'm like in that quarter pendulum state coming back, but I'm still out of sync in that area, big time.
All right, excellent, thank you. Somebody else? Yes, Liz.
I feel very out of balance today after our Omega One. For example, I forgot my phone 4 times. I simply couldn't click my phone today at all. And I kind of keep processing all these noises in my head, and I know I have to pay attention to it because it has to do with the Omega One. But again, life calls and I have to pay attention to the outside world, so I feel very out of balance today.
So that's actually a good example when we have an event that occurs that moves us or we're really fully engaged in, and then when we have to get back into life, it kind of takes us off a little bit. It's very much like a vacation. Sometimes people need a vacation from their vacations because you can't quite get back into the sync of things. Excellent, that's a good picture. Someone else, yes, Canberra.
Physically out of balance. I don't know which way to move or how much to move or where to move, or and it can be a pretty harsh backlash at times.
And would you say it's frustrating?
Oh, it's extremely frustrating.
So then that taps into the energy of the emotions. You get the frustration and then maybe a little disappointment because you're not able to do what you want to do or used to be able to do. Excellent. All right. Anyone? Mark?
I'm in flux with balancing the different aspects of my life. Like I can totally focus on my work and let everything else, whatever, including my laundry, go. My office can just be all over the place, or I could totally focus on play and not want to do any work or anything else. Or I could, I have to forcibly totally focus on my laundry or else it's not going to get done. But, and I struggle with putting those in balance sometimes, deciding what am I supposed to be focusing on right now.
Right. And which one usually wins?
And it's what's exciting me at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Someone else? Yes, in the back.
When someone inflicts pain or injury, I still have a tendency to react, even though I just want to respond because of what I've learned in Omega about metanoia, and to find value in when someone is just lashing at you, it tips me, and I just either close up or I, react.
Right.
So I would really like to work on it to find that balance.
So that there wouldn't be either. It'd be just like acceptance is the term. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Someone else? Yes, sir. Luke's.
I have a feeling that, I don't know exactly what it is, but you're supposed to harbor a loving feeling or unconditional love for everybody in the world. And a lot of times, you have to have that unconditional love for yourself first before you can give it to anyone else. And then, and what I'm really trying to say is that, when you're dealing with love, you're dealing, say, on a physical level and an emotional level and on this feeling level. And that a lot of times, if you try to show love to somebody else, then especially if you're in a close relationship, it may not be accepted as unconditional love. They look at it as, hey, maybe that person has ulterior motives.
Right.
And so there's a little out of balance right there, and whether or not, you have thick skin or you don't have it. But I feel what other people feel. And what a lot of times is that I treat people the way they treat me. So I'm limited to how they're actually controlling my mind and my actions and my thoughts and my emotions.
Okay.
Because, I'm not going to treat them any differently than they're treating me. And that's not unconditional.
No, it's not.
That's insecurity
That's good, Louis. Okay, so that's something we could say we're out of balance with our love, thinking we're doing unconditional love when we're really not. If I'm in a relationship and somebody's looking the other, hey, I want your attention, don't be looking over there. That's not unconditional love. So you're right. And then the idea that you're only going to give to somebody the same amount that they give to you, that has expectations on it as well. So that would be out of balance. Anyone else?
Hoarders on greed.
Hoarders on greed,
And
yes.
insecurity,
Yes. Any other area that you can think of out of balance? I mean, we can do simple things like weight, our diet. Sometimes we can be out of balance with our diet. We don't eat healthy enough. The same thing with with reading. I may be out of balance with my reading. That I may not be reading books that would expand my capacity. I might just stick with one certain kind and that's it. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I can think if it's a contradiction to what my desire is, then it may not be serving me a purpose. So when it comes to being in balance and out of balance, let me see what my next slide is. Oh, look, we're talking about balance. The state of having your weight spread equally so that you do not fall. So there's physical balance. I have physical balance. Now this is curious because when I lost my hearing in my right ear, I lost the equilibrium too. So for a solid week or two, I had absolutely no balance. And it was intriguing when this happened, I was actually doing a training. And so I would walk and put my hand on the wall to walk along the wall to get up to the front of the room to get to back. So that was very strange. I did not appreciate that. So much so I'm still out of balance. If I'm tired, I have to be very careful when I turn around because I don't have good quick reflexes like I used to. So I was a gymnast when I was younger. And to be out of balance is very odd for me. It doesn't feel natural. So that's the definition. There's one more. The ability to move or remain in a position without losing control or falling. Again, we're still talking about physical, but I could put that back, make that a spiritual one. Stability. Torkham introduced that as one of the virtues, the ability to sustain any feeling or state of being. So that means I have the ability to stay solid no matter what you say or do. Nothing you say is going to affect me, nothing you do will affect me. I'll remain centered, internally centered. So we could actually apply this one to the spiritual levels, even emotionally as well. If I had emotional stability, you couldn't harm me no matter what you said. So Lewis brought the point up of thin skin. That means if I were to have balance, I would have the ability not to take anything personal, which is a quality of a noble individual. Nobility means you don't take anything personal. Just let it slide. Recognize that whoever's having their experience, they're having your experience, and you just happen to be in front of them at that moment. So then there's no need to react. If I don't have the reaction, okay. And sometimes the non-reaction causes more of a reaction in them because they're looking for the fight. And when you're not fighting, then that just throws them off. So I want to make sure that that's the last one. Oh, there is one. A state in which different things occur in equal or proper amounts or have an equal or proper amount of importance. I forgot to bring this in here, but I have a scale. In George's office, there's a scale that he used to use as a prop. That's about balance, and I think the gentleman who's sitting there has a blindfold on, and it relates to blind justice. So you should be able to weigh the scale either way without being swayed on either side. It should just be balanced out. So when we have, look, I'm Egyptian. Not tonight, no balance. So I just went to the Katy Perry video. I just recently saw Katy Perry's video, what is it called? Dark Horse. It's all about Egyptian. Anyway, delete that from the video. A state in which different things occur in equal or proper amounts or have an equal or proper amount of importance. Now I could look at this and think about how, as a human being, many of us are out of balance because we focus on the physical, emotional, mental, and stop right there. There are 4 other levels to me. But if I only manifest or focus on the last 3, the bottom 3, the higher aspects of me are out of balance. So it needs equal balance between the both. If we go to the other side, those people who do the ashrams and the vipassanas and all the other meditations, and all they do is sit and meditate and never make a contribution to the physical, emotional, mental, they're unhealthy equally. They're just on the opposite side of equal. So it seems like there needs to be a good center of balance. That's where the green comes into play. That's the intuition. And I think that's really appropriate that the intuition is in the center, because it's my intuition that lets me know, am I out of balance on this side or this side? Do I need to have more spiritual or more lower aspects of me to balance myself out? So intuition is right where I follow. So following my own voice, that inner guidance system, typically will get me to having sustained balance if I'm searching for stability, which many of us are. The next one is symmetry. And this is what I have spoken to about the quality of something that has 2 sides or halves that are the same or very close in size, shape, and position. The quality of having symmetrical parts. So symmetry, we already talked about the sine wave. That's a really good example of it. For a sine wave, the higher you go on the 10, if it's a positive 10, you're going to have a negative 10. It's equal that in that aspect. That's balance. So much so, if you took a sine wave, you actually brought it together, you'd have a circle. That's really what a sine wave is. When we introduce metanoia and omega-2, we talk about metanoia. It's a 180-degree difference from one position to the opposite position. That's half the circle. So it seems to always join back into a circle. Circular. Into a circle. It was a flat circle, whatever. So into a circle. So that's what symmetry comes into. I would say symmetry also involves balance as well. The quality of something that is, I already said that one. So Torkham. Torkham has a statement. Before I get to Torkham, I want to talk to you about karma. I mentioned how karma seems to be the force in life that balances unbalanced energy. Now there are some people who say instant karma happens to them, like they do one thing and all of a sudden, boom, here's something negative. And it's usually when you do something negative, then something negative happens to you and people go, oh, that was instant karma. But it's funny how we don't see all the blessings we have and think, oh, that was karma too. We always just kind of relate karma to the negative coming to us. Karma's negative as well as positive. So karma's like paying a debt, just like paying the electric bill. If the debt is paid, there's no judgment, there's no attachment, there's no emotion. It's just the debt's paid. That's all. Karma is sometimes slow, like a leak in a tire, or sometimes fast, like lightning that's discharged from a capacitor. However it shows up, it has nothing to do with right or wrong or moral sensibility. None of that. It's designed to balance energy, just like balancing your checkbook. It happens with or without love or hate. It happens morality or immorality, no favoritism, no preference whatsoever. The judge faces the same laws as the criminal. That's what karma is. It's equal for every individual. Karma. I'm tired. Karma is designed to balance out everything in the life. For the ebb, there's the flow. For the flow, there's the ebb. Inhale, exhale. That's all balance. All of that is karma. If we were to say karma as a judgment, it's almost like we're judging inhale. We prefer the exhale more than the inhale. Well, that seems a bit odd. You would want to have an equal balance. Same thing with the blood flow. You want the blood in and out of the heart. You can't have favoritism to one or the other. Both are necessary. So when I think about karma, then I think, well, am I therefore indebted to my parents? Because they brought me onto the planet. So am I indebted to them? Or are they paying a karmic debt back, and that's why they brought me onto the planet? So you can think of it on either way. We can think about it on either way. I was thinking about how that it's in the Bible, the Old Testament, one of the commandments. It sounds so bad. It's one of the commandments. Honor your mother and father. Is that one? Yeah. So that's honor. Maybe that has to do with karma, because they brought you here, so we're honoring them and balancing out the debt. But it should also say then honor your children, because you don't know what debt they're paying back to you. So Torgum, he says, as we come into closer harmony with our soul, the energy of love and the expression of love increases. Love gives life, love brings joy, and love creates harmony. So it seems like love is very key, very important when it comes to balance and harmony and joy. Most of these words are interchangeable. Now, with that, I want you to have a conversation with your buddy about the idea of love. Do you love easily? Do you just choose people to love, or can you love everyone who stands before you? Can you love the people, the militants in Nigeria who just kidnapped 300 girls? Can you love them equally to loving your children or your animals? So talk to your buddy about love and your capacity for love.
You mean like a bite?
May I have your attention, please? I've been thinking about the idea of the capacity to love, and having my capacity to love equates to harmony. So if I have a limited capacity to love, that means I have a limited harmony in my life. So I thought about the different scenarios of individuals that I would struggle to love. And the ones, and I don't mean just love, I'm thinking embrace, somebody I could actually embrace. Judgment, every judgment I have limits my love as well. So judgment can affect my thinking, can affect my capacity to love, as well as my emotions that affect my capacity to love. It would appear that the greatest contribution that I could make to humanity would be to create harmony. And love seems to be tied to this. But I have a question. Does love create harmony, or does harmony create love? Have a conversation with your buddy about that. Does love create harmony, or does harmony create love? Go ahead, please. May I have your attention, please? So I toyed with this concept for quite a bit. It's kind of like trying to solve the question, which came at first, the chicken or the egg. It seems to be quite similar. Love and harmony seem to go hand in hand. If I drop the word harmony in it and replace it with beauty, it seems like when I experience beauty, I feel love, and when I'm in love, I feel beauty. So it feels like they're both together. So I really couldn't find which one was the catalyst and which is the result. It seems like they both, and yet they're not interchangeable as well. So when I think about this, I think about how if my job is to create harmony or beauty on the planet, how do I do that? When I look out at the planet, there is actually so much beauty already on this planet. If we think about Mother Nature, there's lots of beauty on the planet. I've been witness to some beautiful events in my life. My mind is full of memories of things that have been beautiful. You can't quite see this, but it's a double rainbow. I had a double rainbow one time in Sedona driving with Susan and George. Boom, the sky just parted and this beautiful, big, huge double rainbow showed up for us. I think this is really cool as a sunset. It looks like angel's wings off of a sunset. Thank you, Mark. So I have, that's perfect. That's beautiful. That's absolutely stunning. Then I stood on mountain peaks and just looked down at valleys. I mean, I've been on a number of mountain peaks just looking out and at the expansiveness of the planet Earth and the curvature of the out on the distance, the curvature of the Earth. I have kayaked with killer whales. That's not me right there, because I'd be like peeing my pants right now if that actually happened. But they were close. They were very close to us. So I've kayaked with killer whales, and that just so majestic. It's unbelievable. I've seen humpback whales breach. Like time stands still, and this humongous creature comes out of the water. You're like, where did that just come from? It's just incredible and miraculous. I have swam with sea turtles. This guy almost hit us. I mean, he came that close to us. It was beautiful. They move so majestic in the water. And it's almost like he doesn't even look like he's swimming, like he's just suspended. Look how clear the water is, too. That was so incredible. I was almost run over by a herd of elk one time. They were just beautiful. They just ran through. And as a matter of fact, I was, this isn't the exact picture, but Nicole and I were up in Banff. And we heard blah, 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 and this elk just went everywhere. And I got out of the car to take pictures, and all of a sudden I hear Nicole go, "Anne-Marie, get back in the car." And I'm like, what? And I'm at the edge taking pictures. She's like, "Anne-Marie, get back in the car." And I'm like, what's wrong? And as I turn, there is a bull elk about 20 feet from me, a bull elk whose rack was larger than the car we were driving. And I'm like, oh crap. Hi. I'll just get back in the car right now, excuse me. But the moment before fear set in, when I turned and looked at him, and he was just looking at me to see whether or not I was dangerous, that moment when our eyes connected was absolutely beautiful. Just a miraculous moment. And just for him to just look at me, and then he just put his head down and started grazing again, I thought, okay, obviously I'm not threatening, so I'll get back in the car. But it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I've also had fawn just waddle up to me and look and see, who are you? And you know, the mom's off in the distance. But just to know that they've come that close, and the mother doesn't feel threatened that she has to come and attack me, that's just so incredible. I actually have some better pictures of that. Then there's me and the eagle. This beautiful bald eagle kisses me on the nose, just a beautiful creature. The redwoods. Have you ever been to the redwood forest? Holy mackerel. It's speechless. What do you stand, there's trees larger than this room, the width, and you just stand there and you can't even see the tops of them. So there's so much beauty on this planet. There's absolutely so much beauty on the planet. Why then do we not have balance on the planet? If there's so much beauty here, what causes us not to have balance? And I've thought about this, and I know George talked about how sometimes Mother Nature, she'll wipe things out. If a species isn't making a contribution, she'll wipe it out. Sometimes the earthquakes and the tornadoes come to kind of clean things out. I remember years ago when there was the fire in the Yellowstone National Forest, and everyone was like, oh, but the scientists said, no, that's actually the best thing to happen. It burned away the brush, and now new growth can come, and from what I understand, it's more beautiful now than it was before the fire. So nature has a way of replenishing itself, recycling, being in balance. But yet, as an overall collective society, we don't have balance. So naturally, I thought about what really causes balance, out of balance. You can't really see that, but there's people in there. Like war. So it seems like the human race, humanity, is what's causing a lack of balance. And that makes sense to me, that it's humanity that's causing a lack of balance. Why? Why are we so strong on creating a lack of balance on the planet? When teacher after teacher after teacher after teacher for generations and centuries talk about balance and beauty and joy, if we've had so many voices talk about this, what's wrong with us? What's preventing us from getting it? What prevents us from creating harmony on the planet? So, I want you to have a conversation with your buddy about that question. You may have your attention, please. All right, I'd like to hear from some of you. Why do you think that we, as a human race, are unable to create harmony and balance on the planet? What prevents us from this? Yes, Judy?
Free will.
Our free will?
Yes, we don't have a choice in accepting whether we will do things in a certain way, positive way, or negative way. And so we just speak it out and see.
So the gift of free will is what actually ruins us.
It could.
It could. All right, thank you. Mary?
My personal feeling on this is the lack of fear of faith in something greater than us, the control. Because to me, it's like this inflated ego thing of like, I can't sleep with CNN on anymore. I've already was seeing somebody about anxiety, so like that sense my fear of lack of control or faith or safety issue, that I feel like I have to step in and have these superpowers. And then I'm really out of balance.
Right. All right. Excellent. Liz?
Yes.
Lack of consciousness.
Lack of consciousness, is that what you said? All right. Thank you. Louis?
I think it goes back to the animalistic instinct of survival. And they put more value into, surviving than they do of helping the other person survive. And so that constantly, you don't have that love for humanity as a whole.
All right.
You're more into the feeling
Of survival.
of survival, of want, greed, and need.
Want, greed, and need. Those are really good. Excellent. Thank you.
Too much competition in that respect.
Okay. Thank you. Mark?
Thank you. So I was struggling with all this for quite a while, and I haven't, the truth is that I made a major change in my life when we did Omega-4, which is probably over a year ago. I haven't listened to talk radio since then. Realistically, it really was one of my focuses in forms of entertainment and allying myself on both sides. And it was even a struggle then because, and it's still a struggle for, what I keep going back to every time I see something like this, because I don't really focus on the news at all, is that it's the principle of polarity. And that it must exist. It always has existed. Even before, I was talking to John, he was saying it's been going on since bacteria. There's always been that, it could, and I always, George would talk about what's the next step up in thinking. This could be humanity's way of doing what the forest fire does. Because new civilizations rise up in the wake of war, or that land that those people were living on renews itself. So, the principle of polarity speaks to that.
Okay.
That those things have to exist.
All right. Thank you, Dean.
I think a lot of it has to do with the thinking of me in society today instead of we, which is,
Piggy's only home.
Sorry. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, so the we versus the me. Got it. Someone else? Yes, ma'am.
I think to go with what Louis said, who he was my Omega-2 buddy, and I wanted to say hi. Louis.
Louis, she's talking. You turn around, honey.
Get off the phone.
Look over there.
Yeah.
Say
Hi.
hi.
Say hi. He's my Omega buddy. I think, along with what Louis said and the gentleman behind me with this protecting what's mine, whether that be my own family, my own heart, my own money, my house, and kind of that selfish nature, we end up with war and conflict and various things.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Mike?
Consider the possibility we're all in the process of evolution, and we're looking at it from being in the pot that is in the evolution. Because there are people that are at the level of anybody in this room that don't think me, me, me. There are people that think we in countries, in nations, in most of the globe. And George had mentioned people like this. These masters are people like this, who think bigger because they have a bigger picture. So who we're talking to and where we're talking from is because of who we are in this evolution process. The whole world isn't like us, but the pyramid's always biggest at the bottom.
Right, excellent, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am?
I think it just has to do with the feeling of separation. That we're somehow separate from the earth, we're separate from each other, we're separate from God, we're separate from maybe our brain and our mind, somehow separate. It's just the separateness.
So it's like the reverse of Avatar. But in Avatar, everything is connected, and here, everything is not. We feel separate. All right, anyone else? Yes, Michael?
I've heard a lot about the stability and stuff, and especially after Gabrielle Giffords was shot, and civil discourse and stuff. And I'm thinking a lot about that. When you have like a child who's uncivil, it's not really the child, it's the parents.
It's the parents.
If the people in the society become uncivil if they're being abused. So it's not, they look at it the wrong way. They want to say, oh, the people are the ones who are wrong. We
so
change
for
them.
generations.
We really need to change the people who make the parents and the decisions.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to have you read what you read to me before. This was really cute.
The Dalai Lama, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, answered, man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, and then dies having never really lived.
Wow. I think that's true. That was a good balance. And see, it was the Dalai Lama, so.
That's very judgmental.
Chris, I love you. I really do. Stop talking. Okay. Okay. So what I want to do is go to the idea. George used to say this all the time. He said, if you want to stop the war outside in the world today, what is the one thing you must do? Stop the war inside. Until I conquer this war here, I will never conquer the war out there. So the war exists within me. That could be one of the reasons why there's so much war externally, because there's so much war internally. The more we work on cleansing, clearing the war within us, the more humanity would rise above it. Like Mike made a great illustration. He said a pyramid. I'm going to go to the mountains, since that's what we usually mention in Omega-1. The largest landmass is at the bottom of the mountain. The shortest, smallest landmass is up on the top. The ones at the top, those are the ones who resolve the war within themselves. The ones on the bottom, we still fight war. Here, here, and here. So, to rise above the times in which we were born, Dag Hammarskjöld used to say that as well. But I think then, therefore, my job, in order for me to cease the war within me, then I must practice conscious harmony, to create harmony. So how do I create harmony? According to Delta Vector, here's a beautiful picture of George. Many people have never seen this. This is my favorite picture of him up in Sedona. On one walk, we used to go to Sedona all the time and just walk and talk, and then sometimes it would just be a day, drive up there, and then come right back down. So he said, George would say that my job is to create beauty, joy, and harmony. In every step, in everything I do, this will help me conquer the war. to create joy, beauty, and harmony in everything that I do. If I do that, then the focus is on acceptance. Then I have patience and understanding. I have stability. All of the desires that I have within spiritual desires, it would be a result or benefit from beauty, joy, and harmony. So then how do I create beauty, joy, and harmony? If those are the things that's my task, how do I create beauty, joy, and harmony? It's simple. When I see something happen, we talk about this, metanoia, find the value. Look for the beauty. There was a parable where Jesus was walking down the road and the disciples were with him and there was a dead dog on the side of the road and it was like, ew, because that's what they did, ew. And Jesus looked and said, but yet his teeth are white as pearls. So you can find something beautiful even in decay. So look for the beauty, joy. How do I spread joy? Joy is easy. That's through laughter. That's through gratitude. You can fill your spirit with joy just by simple gratitude of being alive, having an opportunity to make a contribution today, an opportunity to breathe. And then harmony. How do I create harmony? Well, harmony would be the idea of looking for balance. That whenever who's in front of me, not to respond in a reaction, but balance it out. To be the ebb and the flow, to step into the ebb and flow in life and not try to control life, but to accept this is how life flows. So I put the task before me, and I thought, well, as Omega closes its doors, then maybe it's time for us to take a pragmatic pause and start practicing the things that we preach. Start talking and doing, implementing the things that we've been learning for 36 years. So as we close the doors, this would be a good time for us to now go out and see if we actually understood the things that we've talked about. Can we implement these things that we've been speaking about and learning until the next time that the doors open? We're the ones who are carrying the lights. We're the ones who are now going to go out there and implement the teachings. So the question you'd have to ask yourself is, can you destroy the war that lives within you? Are you capable of stopping this war here? For every person who ceases the war within, there's one less war out here. I think that makes perfect sense to me. It's very symmetrical. War in here, war out there. So if I have peace in here, then I have peace out there. So it ties me right back to harmony again. So that's really what I wanted to say about this. I'm ending just a little early because I wanted to spend a little bit more time just to kind of wrap things up. This is the last Monday night workshop that we'll hear, but it's not the last time we're going to open the doors. Next Monday is the last back to basics training that Nicole has been delivering. It's going to be a Q&A, but we're going to pretty much answer anything from Omega to what makes Nicole tick. It's the next Monday coming up. So it's May 28th.
Oh, no.
Is it 28th?
26th.
26th? It's the 26th, May 26th. So it'll be next Monday at 7 o'clock here in the building. For those of you who weren't here last night, we had a beautiful turnout for graduation. There was about 40 people, 45 people that showed up. It was absolutely beautiful. We talked a little bit about what's going to happen with Omega. Our nonprofit status still stays in place. We're still open for receiving donations. We're just doing the pragmatic pause, closing the doors, searching for a new place. Part of the reason why we're shutting down is because donations have been low, registration has been low, staff and volunteers have been low. Those are three key factors that keep us alive. So it's time to stop, pause, and then reset. So the idea that we'll be keeping our nonprofit number means you can continue to give donations. We will be more than happy to take them, more than happy. Because what they'll do is sustain us so the next, when we open, we'll have something to live off of or to get us up launched again. And plus we're also currently still looking for permanent home. I've had a few offers, but we haven't found a permanent home.
So this is a pause, it's not a like forever close?
Well,
you mean like nobody gets killed off in the story? And so Barbara, and then like
I can't guarantee you that.
Like Dallas, like who shot JR and then he comes back.
This will not be a dream. Through the years, George has done several closes. And so this is my third one that this is my third one, but the first one that I'm in charge of. So it's a little bit different this time around. The last 2 ones that I was involved with George, he was doing a study group, so there was still energy going on, and I don't have anything like that just yet. I have some ideas, and as the weeks go by on the emails that we have 1 more month of emails that I'm gonna do. I'll update you and let you know what we're gonna be happening, and then for the month of July, I'm not doing anything that will be the total close, everything's done, and to end the energy, and then start back up again, like a complete and total exhale. That's it. And in that moment of the month, I want to take that moment, like the transition of air in your lungs. There's a brief moment of time when the oxygen comes in and the carbon monoxide goes out. But there's a moment where that transition is required and necessary. So that'll be the month of July. You will not hear anything from us or get anything from us. In August, that's when something may or may not show up, depending on what life leads us to. Right now, it's my intention to keep or change the fire. I have no attachment to what the direction will be, if it is Omega or something else. But as I said in the program last night, it is not within me to remain silent and still. I will continue to work in whatever venue. One of the shutdowns, I actually started another nonprofit organization, and then when George started back up again, I handed it off and came back here. So I don't really have a desire to start another. I'm much older now. But I would like to stay in this venue and continue on. Since you're all here, I have had the thoughts of another study group, and it's been on my mind for quite some time, so this seems like a natural transition to begin a study group, and maybe that might be the first thing we do when we start back up again, is to do a study group and see how that unfolds. So a goodbye to the building, definitely, but not a goodbye to the spirit of Omega. That would still exist in you, as well as in the staff and the rest of the Omega volunteers and people throughout the years who have been throughout these rooms. For 36 years, we've held a good, strong spirit. And so, again, I don't see anything sad about this. I just see it as a pause. It's an exhale and an inhale. And not to be attached. That's how George always was. Not to be attached. We start back up again, we start back up. If we don't, then it's time for us to end. And do it gracefully, with gratitude, love, and peace and harmony. That would be my desire. But as I said, we are meeting one more time. Next Monday, there's a final meeting here at 7 o'clock. Then in the month of June, we'll be searching or looking happily for volunteers to come and help us pack things up. We'll have one weekend where we're just going to pack things up. One of my tasks is I need to go through and tag everything we want to keep for a reopening if we do, and then everything else that we want to get rid of. We'll have a liquidation sale in the middle of June, and then the final time for us to be here would be June 28th, which is the day George died 2 years ago, so I thought it would be appropriate to be the final time that we're in the room, in the building. We may not have any furniture for anyone to sit in, so you might have to bring your own chair if you come in on the 28th. But that will be the final time of the 28th, and then that's it, we're done. But as I stated, we'll keep you updated in the newsletters. That will continue on, and then the new newsletter format that we have, it's called Constant Contact. We will keep that maintained so that when we do start back up again, all of your information will still be there. If at any time you move or your email changes, the website will still be up, and you could still email, contact this, that, and they'll just readjust your new information. Any questions about anything? I'm getting really good at explaining this now. Any questions about anything before? Yes, Doyle.
You want to say anything about Dick Fetter's artwork?
Yeah, during the liquidation sale, there was a gentleman many years ago who was an artist, and he used to draw and design. And Doyle has a bunch of Dick's paintings, so he's going to bring them in, or drawings. He's going to bring them in, and we'll include those in the auction, not the auction, in the liquidation sale as well. So pretty much anything that I'm not keeping is going to be up for sale. Kind of would like to leave the carpet down, but last time people came in and they were taking squares of the one. So we do have carpet extra stored up somewhere, so if you really feel like you need a square of the Omega Blue carpet, because it's so rare, we will have some of that available. But I can tell you, like any of the trading materials, those would not be available. All my props are staying with me. It's just really stuff that I know we don't need to store, that we could just purchase again if and when we do start back up again. Mark actually suggested we take the clouds, because those are kind of rare, so you don't get the clouds. Sorry, guys. Any other questions about that? Well, then I want to, yes, sir.
I just wanted to mention, we started recording these Monday night workshops. So there's an excellent collection of workshops that are sitting up on YouTube that you can access anytime. If, during this time there's something you want to catch up on or whatever it may be, there's a great collection of them up there.
And the very last impact training that we did record it, so it comes out to a little bit over 2.5 hours. That's on the phenomenon of man, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the Omega Point. That will be up there as well. We're working on getting that. It's a large upload, so it takes some time to get up there. So again, I would agree with Mark. If you really wanted to stay in touch, go through that. And I'm also working on setting up a blog where there'll be previous Monday night workshops with PDFs that you can go and research and find the topic that you might want to do. This is a daunting task to take on, but that's one thing. Plus some of the newsletter articles that were written. I've had some requests for the copies of those, so I'm going to try to upload all of those. So there's work to be done. It's kind of nice to have like a library. I think it would be good to have a library where you can access that information. That's huge, and that, like, I'm also looking at librarying George's information too, which is another undaunting task. So there's things to do that I'll be actively working on. The only thing I would request of you is just to be a beacon of the work and keep your lights burning brilliantly. What's that commercial? We'll leave the light on for you. Well, I don't really have anything else to say, so thank you for tonight. There's some cake out there that somebody brought in for me, so please help yourselves to a piece of cake. Tamara, thank you very much for my cake. Have a good evening. We'll see you next time.